And I believe we're live. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me just fine. Want to make sure my audio is coming in. And besides that, welcome. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex Barker, and welcome to Unlocking Your Future in Pharma. One, looks like we're having some problems with Facebook, but that's okay. We're going to carry on. I'm the founder of the Happy PharmD, where we guide pharmacists into careers that they love. Tonight, I'll be sharing what we've learned after helping now over 2,000 pharmacists in careers, and many of them of getting into the pharmaceutical industry. Garrett, hey, thanks for confirming. Appreciate that. We are live and we're cooking with fire. Okay. So thank you so much, you guys, for showing up tonight. I'm very excited to share with you what we've learned and a high-level overview of the pharma industry. You guys have been great because I have been hearing so much from you. If you didn't get my email earlier, I'd love to know. You can write it out as a comment, and I'll be able to see it as to what you want to walk away from tonight. I received so many emails from you guys asking very specific questions, and I kind of want to put a summary to some of them right now. I think a lot of people, I'm going to change that. I think a lot of people want to know how to transition into it, especially from retail background. I heard a lot of people talking about what's the trajectory like once you get in. Is it easy to transition? What is that like? And how do you stand out? I heard a few people asking about landing specifically the ever elusive and well marketed MSL role, and discussing some preferred roles for entry level jobs. I heard questions about resume and interview prep, how to stand out in that process. I heard things about skills and experience building. I heard questions on pay scale. Pay transparency was one question that I thought was very interesting in pharma roles, and which jobs pay low, which jobs pay high. I heard questions about, hey, should I take classes? Should I take courses? Should I go residency route, fellowship route? Kendra, if you're here, hello, welcome. Thanks for being a student and being so proactive. And I also heard questions about networking, LinkedIn. What do you do about these things? How do you use keyword research for your applications? And job search tactics. So how do you find these jobs? How do you find them out before they're posted? And things like NAPLEX scores, which I thought was really specific, and state licensing. Do you need a license? Well, a lot of these questions, I think we will highlight some of them, and I want to save some of them for the Q&A because they're super specific. And if I don't address an objective that you have tonight, please let me know. I want to cover that near the end. But as we go on, please, I think there's a little bit of a delay, and that's okay. But if you could, just let me know, what do you want to learn from tonight's session? Now, what I've prepared tonight, I think, covers quite a bit of what I feel like most people are concerned about, what they want to know. And that's things like how pharmacists can transition into the pharmaceutical industry. We're going to be talking about a diverse array of sectors tonight, job sectors. So we're not going to get into too many specifics on job titles, but the sectors that pharmacists can enter. We're going to be talking about 8 specifically. And then we will end on talking about identifying what past experiences can be leveraged into a pharma role. I hope you have a wonderful drink tonight. I got my wife's lovely tea to soothe my throat as we talk. It is hot, so let's get started. I think it's great to think about what draws people in as a best place to start. The pharma industry is something that right now, I think the latest stat was something like 70% of the pharmacist clients that we're helping right now want to get into. There's very few people saying, I want clinical practice. And I think we all know the reasons why. That is one of the biggest motivators right now, and why I'm seeing some. Hopefully, one of our staff can help you here. I'm not sure why you're not be able to hear anything. I apologize for that. Um, what is drawing people in right now is that it is a lack of patient care. I just did an analysis today on my LinkedIn newsletter about this uh, draw right now into pharma. Many people want to get into the pharmaceutical industry because it typically doesn't have to deal with patients. I heard one pharmacist say, "I'm done with the public." And I don't blame them. There is a lot of hard work conditions right now that aren't as present in the pharma industry. There is still burnout in pharma. There are still toxic work environments, but the rates, according to some published studies, is there is a difference. The pharmaceutical industry burnout rates is closer to the general public, which is around 40%, compared to pharmacy, which is around clinical pharmacy and retail and hospital pharmacy is around 65 to 80%. So I think what draws in a lot of people, and some of the people I have on screen here, is that these roles are more flexible, they have less stress, they are innovative, they are a place to have both a challenge and to be constantly learning. One pharmacist told me after transitioning that it felt so overwhelming for the first 3 months because every day felt like going back to pharmacy school on steroids. And I think, what's interesting about this is that, you know, in pharmacy school, I think we're demotivated to be curious and to learn because we're forced to study things for a test that we don't care about other than just making sure we pass. But once you get into the real world, there's so many interesting problems that companies are solving, particularly in the pharma space. One of the things that I feel like most pharmacists aren't aware of is how many interesting challenges they are trying to tackle. And one of the things that we want to work on with people in our program is discovering, like, what are you passionate about? What are you interested in? And how can that inform your career plan? Because when you're in touch with those things, that can make it so much easier on your application, on your resume, your cover letter, your interview, even when negotiating. And it can all be based upon what you know. I'm seeing some comments come in here. Sounds like people can hear me. Great. Thank you. For those people that I shared here on the screen, I know that a few of them wanted a challenge. I took 4 samples of a few different pharmacist testimonials that we have on our website. And the overarching theme after hearing them again, after talking with them, I don't know, years ago, was the consistent theme of work-life balance, flexibility, a challenge. And I thought this was interesting. These pharmacists shared that they were really excited about the work they were doing. David, in fact, there in the bottom right, now has moved on to a role um, called drug cost containment expert. What a niche. That wasn't the job I believe we helped him get into, but it's something that he's transitioned into. And it contains challenges, it contains things that he's learning. But these pharmacists all have transitioned into pharma. And overall, I know that they're enjoying things like a nice salary, bonus potential, that work life balance. Some of them enjoy remote work. And then finally is the innovation piece. Now, I think us as pharmacists, I think we have to be really aware of something that pharmacy is very risk averse. We do not like taking risks. And that makes sense. You don't want to play Dr. Frankenstein with someone's opioid medications, right? Or antipsychotics. But that means also that we're a profession that isn't really driven to change, to innovate, or create. Doesn't mean it's not always true, but in general, it's not at the same level as what's happening, say, with physicians or even nurse practitioners or PAs. So when I think about the benefits of joining something like the pharmaceutical industry, I see continuous learning opportunities. I see a diverse set of roles that require skills that many pharmacists already have developed. And it's a place where you can get both side hustle opportunities, part time opportunities, and finally full time, of course. Of course. What is drawing you in? What about these roles sounds interesting to you? This is just a high level overview, but once you kind of connect with one of these reasons, you likely find some motivation to keep going when things get tough. Because as we all know, for every career plan, there will likely be rejections or ignoring people. So, what's going to motivate you beyond just applying to one or two jobs? Let me know in the chat. And I think there is a pretty significant delay. And I apologize if I'm not seeing your comments live because that's the internet, unfortunately. Well, what I want to do next is I would love to move into the 8 job sectors. So we've broken pharmaceutical companies into 8 sectors. That doesn't mean that these include everything, because even as I was going over this with my team, we were like, "Oh yeah, well, what about this? And where does this fit in?" There's so many different things. And so what we decided to do was put together R&D and biotech. This would include things like clinical research, being involved with clinical trials. This is the core of drug discovery and initial development. Most pharmacists or any lay people think that this is the realm of lab techs, PhDs, but pharmacists can get involved as well. They both have a great understanding of the current marketplace that's out there, what other drugs are available, as well as patient use of such medications. We know a few people in this space, and they enjoy things like working with team members in a vast array of different professions and sharing their opinion from their practice, as well as some that go on to further their education, get things like PhDs, which seems very extensive from my point of view. And these sort of roles involve a lot of knowledge from things like even just how drugs are developed, but some go as far as taking stat classes and being able to research and publish with these companies. Biotech is included in this as this is a really innovative and interesting field that I feel like many people are ignoring. It's not something we pharmacists typically think about. You know, I actually just spoke with a pharmacist this past week who I would probably put this in another category, but I know that she's wanting to do research and development in the medical device space based upon her past experience in research and development. So it's not impossible to take the skills that you may have. Now, this is very research heavy. If you love reading articles, this could be just a minor sign that this is a path that you could get into. Now, a much more common path that pharmacists are choosing is medical and clinical affairs. Medical affairs is the interface between drug manufacturers and the broader medical community. While drug information is providing detailed drug information that is often a component of medical affairs. Clinical affairs is anything relating between mostly dealing with the clinicians. Now, there are different roles that you can take in here. Many people have heard of medical affairs associate, medical affairs specialist. These are roles that can be as high level as specialists and also have roles that can take people without any experience. Salaries vary based upon this. Lots of pharmacists, other practitioners get into this space. This isn't as usually research focused people, but more so people with clinical backgrounds, but also lots of other pharma positions can transfer into these spaces. This is very popular right now, this sector. And I know that I'm not talking about specific job titles, but I think we all have heard it at least once. Medical writing. Everyone right now that I seem to be talking to wants to start up a side hustle with medical writing. And that's great. That's fantastic. Medical writing is a great way to make a couple of extra $1,000 over a year or even a month on the side if you're diligent and you know how to find gigs. But it's also something that you can do full time. Knowing these spaces is critical for selling yourself, because if you are positioning yourself as a pharmacist, you have a unique background that can inform the kind of work that you can do within these companies. By the way, if you have any questions, anything as we are going through these, feel free to let me know. One of my support team is letting me know that a few questions are coming in, but they're not showing up on our screen. Apologize for that. Hope to get to them. If not now, then later in the Q&A. The third sector is regulation, quality, and safety, or drug safety. So regulatory affairs is the interface between these drug companies and regulatory bodies. So that's working with major companies, DEA, FDA. It's knowing the laws and regulations. These are often specialty positions. And while some pharmacists do transition into this sector, often what is more easier is transitioning into something like medical affairs and then getting into regulation later on. Quality assurance is also a great place for pharmacists. After all, who ensures the quality of the final end product that goes to patients? Hey, it's us. It's pharmacists. But it's also ensuring the quality of what's being produced. Some pharmacists get into things like the development side, and this is kind of related to quality. I thought about making concentric circles for these, because one of the problems with pharma is that so many roles intersect with other roles. And the nice thing is that once you get involved in something, you learn about another sector. Like when you get into regulatory affairs, you learn about drug safety, you learn about quality assurance and control. You learn about pharmacovigilance, which is a part of that drug safety component. That's something that's very hot right now. It seems like every other college I see is putting together a pharmacovigilance program. But pharmacovigilance is basically just dealing and monitoring and responding to drug safety issues. We've probably all heard of AIRS before, reporting things like vaccine problems. That kind of got a lot of negative press from the pandemic. We don't need to talk about it. And the next sector is market access, sales, and economics. So sales and marketing, that's really simple. Everyone knows that drug companies, they're kind of infamous for how they're selling and marketing. But did you know that for every single thing that is ever produced has to be approved by a ton of different people within these programs? Market access, marketing, regulatory affairs, medical affairs. But market access is a little bit different in that it deals with things like health economics and focuses on ensuring drugs are affordable and accessible. This is a whole new field that is being developed in the last couple of years, and programs are popping up all over the place, especially in health outcomes economics research. This is a very in-depth research-based field, and it's great for you if you really enjoy that kind of stuff. If you enjoy economics, if you enjoy learning about the statistics of things. And what my encouragement to people who are interested in health economics is to find a job in this space and find companies that are investing in their employees to pay for these kinds of programs. I mean, right now, education is stupid high. And it is not my recommendation right now, but just broadly, to go out and get a degree when a company is potentially willing to pay for you to do that. Sarah, I see your comment here about where do you find these jobs. We'll talk about that. Don't you worry. We'll talk about it near the end. And next up is policy, advocacy, and managed care. Drug policy, advocacy. Some people think that this is not contradictory, but like it's weird for people to make this switch. When I was graduating pharmacy school, the atmosphere about pharma was that they were the bad guys. They were the people who were fighting for companies, fighting for profit. And if you switched over to them, then you were joining the bad guys. Now it's not the case at all. It's not how most pharmacists feel. In this space of policy, you can both be fighting for what these drug companies want, and you can also be fighting for patient and their advocacy. I just spoke with a pharmacist this week who has a consultancy that provides patient advocacy services to patients that need that help. She understands a lot about patient advocacy and has been interacting with pharmaceutical companies that are kind of consulting and learning from her so that they can improve their ability to provide great medical products and care. Then there's also managed care, which I know has a ton of good press. Sorry, but we know what that is, right? It's formulary decisions, it's interacting with health systems and insurance providers. There's good and bad things about it. Some people love working in the sector, some not so much, but it is something that you can get into. And then there's also oh no, I'm sorry, I moved on to the next one, which is manufacturing and supply chain. This is related to R&D, but it's actually making the medication. I remember when I was a second-year pharmacy student, and I was not engaged at all with my career. I just was trying to survive. I didn't care about things. And randomly, I took a tour of a manufacturing plant that was making herbal supplements. And I remember my father dragging me on this tour because he was an engineer and he loved this kind of stuff. And I just didn't care. But I remember at the end of the tour, which was given to us by the facilities manager, he said, "When you're done, give me a call because I would love for you to work with us." And I remember never pursuing that at all. I'm so frustrated that I didn't take up that opportunity because I could have probably done something right then as there as a student. I could have helped them with a variety of different things based on my knowledge from pharmacy, but also just being entrepreneurial. But I never took them up on that offer. But pharmacists can play a role in the manufacturing and production, as well as supply chain management. Right now, I don't want to get too geopolitical right now with what's happening in the world, but supply chain management is becoming one of our government's top concerns right now. They're taking some action on things like lithium, things like different computer products. We've heard about the chip problem with how most of computer chips are made in Taiwan. And the same is true right now about our drug supply in the United States. If you want to talk about a secure career path within the pharma industry, supply chain management is critical for the future healthcare of our entire nation. Maybe it's not as important as I'm emphasizing, but as someone who is keeping his eye on world events, you better believe that lots of money is being poured into this right now in every supply chain sector, pharma included. The seventh sector is consulting and entrepreneurship. Now, this is something that I feel like most people don't want to get into, nor is it typically a first step. But I like to think of almost every sector here can supply a consulting opportunity. One of my pharma colleagues, Katie Taylor, pharmacist, worked as a clinical pharmacist for years, transitioned over there. One of her in-between jobs was working for a smaller, I believe, a medical information company that was wanting to contract with bigger companies. And not only was she being supplied with this job, but she was also hiring experts in the fields of pharmacy and paying these people money for their clinical expertise. So I'd like to put in like expert witness into this category. I like to put in clinical experts in this category. But I mean, even just thinking about medical affairs, for example, clinical affairs, you can get a consulting job doing medical information. You can start up your own business doing just that. In fact, a few of our alumni from our program have those businesses right now. I just got to have the wonderful privilege of speaking with Brittany Hoffman Eubanks, who was retail pharmacist. Now she has a business called, and of course, I forgot the name of her company, but she has her own company. Oh, Banner Medical. Knew it would come to me. Banner Medical, that hires other pharmacists to provide medical information, medical writing to other companies. So it's possible. And then finally is health tech and assessment and informatics. Think digital pharmacy, think AI, think evaluating health tech and assessment. This is a whole new sector that many pharmacists aren't aware of, but this is essentially evaluating interventions, broader impacts on policy decision. So how are the decisions we're making from policies, from how companies are being run, how is that influencing the impact of patient care? Well, technology is booming again right now. We're in the AI boom. It's very similar to the dot-com boom. So in, 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a lot of these new AI businesses crash and burn. But if there's a time now, especially any students that are present, now is the time to be gaining experience in these fields. Absolutely. Get AI experience. So these are the 8 sectors we've identified. This isn't everything, but these are the main sectors that we see opportunity for pharmacists to get into. Now I want to talk just a little bit about how to transfer your experience into industry. One of the comments I saw over and over again is, I'm in retail, I'm in hospital, I'm clinical, I don't have any experience. The jobs that I'm looking for say 1 to 2 years. How do I show them what I can do? So first, a couple of quick notes. Yes, job postings often say they want experience. Now, there may be an AI component that rules people out, but there is a way to get around that using keywords within your application. But often what I have found with our previous clients and with people hustling their way with their career is that with the right networking approach, with the right conversations, you can position your application well to be competing with people who may have that experience. In addition, I would never let experience required or experience preferred ever stop me from applying to a job that I really wanted. They put that there often to rule out people to say, well, I don't have that, so why try? It's your career. You should try. So go for it. But you may be saying, okay, well, that's great news, but I only have this experience. I've only done this. Well, if you think of this class really as kind of like some primer for your career. I'm going to be sharing with you in just a little bit a workshop that we're going to be doing that goes into greater detail about this. But my methodology comes down to really two approaches. The first approach is looking at the past experience, and the second one is taking on new experience. So Melina, who was one of the pharmacists I showed earlier, who transitioned into medical writing full time, had a passion for writing. Now, her past experience didn't necessarily have a ton of things that she could put on her resume that would lend itself well to an application. But because she knew she wanted to write, because she knew she had the experience in writing and things in the past, like in college, she took every opportunity she could find to begin working on writing. And to my latest knowledge, which may not be updated, because people change jobs often in pharma, but she was able to work part-time doing medical writing and transitioned into full-time through gaining new experience. She relied more on the second strategy. So when you're thinking about any job sector that we've just talked about, you can ask yourself the question, okay, I'm going to look at a job application and where's the gap? What are the skills that they are looking for? There's a variety of different ways that you can go out and gain those skills. The most traditional way is education, and it's the one that I don't recommend for most people unless you want to go down the route of a very high level job requirement, something like research background, health outcomes that we talked about. Those often do require more education. So, what experience can you gain? Well, if, for example, medical writing, go out and write. I mean, that's the best thing to do. Get experience either doing it for free or for volunteering for companies or creating connections with companies or startups in particular, and ask what problems they need solved. One of my good friends, Colin Lafayette, this is exactly how he got into a startup. He developed a report to help the founder understand the pharmaceutical marketplace with a specific industry. He did his research, came up with a report, sent it over to the founder of the company, and within a few hours, the founder responded with, "Let me hire you. I need you right now." And he became employee number one. He has since moved on. No surprise. But let's say you don't want to go out and get new experience. I understand. Maybe things are tough. Maybe you have 5 kids. Maybe you don't have extra hours. You're working full time. You don't have that energy. Well, then that's okay. You can aim for job sectors that don't typically require lots of experience. As an example, it is very challenging and competitive to get a medical science liaison role right now. Seemingly everyone is wanting to go for that job. By comparison, it is much easier to get a role as a medical information associate. So, what does that person do? The thing to be looking at is past experience and your transferable skills. So, for example, if you're going to be in medical information, you need to have an attention to detail. You need, and guess what? You do that on a daily basis as a pharmacist. You have to be that because patients' lives are on the line. And while medical information needs to be right and correct before it's published, I think we can all agree that a medicine for a single patient is more important than perhaps incorrect published information because that can be corrected. But what can't be corrected is a patient taking a wrong dose. That is a transferable skill that can lend itself well into that role. Everyone here who's a pharmacist has a scientific background. That is a transferable skill. You've had to go through one of the most challenging programs in the world. Less than 1% of the United States can even attempt to do what we do on a day-to-day basis as pharmacists. And so we have experience and knowledge that gears us well in starting positions within pharma. We have typically excellent communication skills because we are talking with patients who have sometimes fourth grade reading level. If not, some people can't even read, but we have been trained to communicate well with those people. We can take those communication skills and we can apply them into the next phase of your career in pharma. So, just in summation here, the idea is twofold. One, taking a look at your past experience and identifying the transferable skills to the job that you want to apply to. Look at the job, look at the job description, see what those details and those duties are and the responsibilities. And then ask yourself and critically look at your past work and say, what have I done that's a skill? Because remember, if they're asking for things like experience, maybe you've never had a job in pharma. Hey, fine. That's okay. Everyone's got to start somewhere. But you likely have done things that are similar to whatever that job duty is. When working with individuals, every time I make sure, every time we look at their resume, I always make sure that they have at least one thing that is related to a job description on the job application. And it's all about positioning past experience often. But as a proactive attempt, my encouragement to everyone is to take new experiences and apply it to what you're doing right now. Okay. So we have covered 3 huge objectives. I've been talking a lot, not sipping my wife's tea, but I just did it now. So we talked about how can pharmacists get started? And I think it starts with getting connected with why do you want this? Letting that motivate you, because getting into pharma is not an easy challenge. If everyone was doing it, we would be seeing that change. We know that pharma jobs right now are hiring less than they have in the past. If you want more details about that, actually, you can go to my LinkedIn page. You can check out my newsletter. I just published one today that looks at a few different data points about job changes. We talked about a diverse set of different roles and 8 different sectors of pharma. And in my opinion, the most popular right now is medical, clinical affairs, and entrepreneurship and consulting. And then finally, we talked a brief overview of how to take past experiences to be leveraged into a pharma role, with the bonus step of identifying what new things you could do to draw attention to yourself in the marketplace. And I'm seeing some great questions come in, and I want to get to those. And okay, if tonight's class was that tiny egg, I've got some jet fuel for you in a workshop that I would love to invite you to. When I took this path initially to discovering what I wanted to do with my career, I knew it was academia. I'd always thought that. But after trying and researching and doing my own work and getting coached, as well as coaching others for 5 years, I discovered, you know what? I want to create my own thing. Hence the Happy PharmD. And I spent a lot of time and research and learning, and we've been able to apply that and help pharmacists transition. And what we want to work on with you is a workshop geared towards helping you transition into the pharmaceutical industry. This is your event invite. I would love for you to be with me and my co-host, who has pharma experience and is one of our career coaches, Next week, what is that time? 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Did you see me calculate that in my head? November 8th. So almost the same time as today's webinar, but just a half hour in the future. We'll be doing this on a live Zoom call where we will be going over the following. We are going to talk very specifically about the job opportunities awaiting you in these sectors. And we want to highlight the entry-level positions that pharmacists can get into. Not everyone has publication background. Not everyone has research background. Not everyone is willing even to do some of those things. So we want to identify for you some of those jobs, but opening up about what those jobs are, what potentially you should be looking into. And then we're going to be talking about 3 critical steps. Now, this is actually really important because this isn't theory. I've been talking a lot about some theory here today. We're actually doing it in this workshop. We're going to be jumping in, baby, and we're going to be helping you do things like not applying to every single job type that's out there. Because if you are applying to every single pharma job you can find, you're probably not going to make a whole lot of progress. I actually just spoke to a former MSL pharmacist this week. She was on a contract job, let go, and she had been looking for, I don't know, 8 months, I think, or something like that. And she had been applying to over 1,000 jobs. That's exhausting and not efficient, by the way, because for every generic job that you apply to without transforming your application, your cover letter, your approach to the company, you're likely wasting your time. So we're going to be doing that in this section, helping you narrow down what you're looking for and how to specifically showcase your value of what you bring to the table. So everyone at the end will have exactly what they need to be saying on these applications, on what to be saying in interviews, and to be able to speak confidently about what they can do. Then we're going to be talking about how to transfer your unique experience into industry. Again, I spoke very broadly, and we don't know your specific skills. Lots of pharmacists are similar, but lots of pharmacists are different. So we're going to be talking about how to take your unique skill and how that can be leveraged in the field that you have chosen for yourself. I'm very excited about this because it's very practical. And these are things that you can put in your LinkedIn bio line. This is something that is a headliner for your LinkedIn page, your resume, your cover letter. It's very applicable. And it's a great thing to bring up in conversations when you are talking with people in pharma. And then my favorite, the thing that I'm the most excited about, I mean, everything else is good, but this last one I'm really excited about, is 3 case studies to harness AI for a successful career transition. And my team told me don't share with them, but I said I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to show you how to use AI to help you with your cover letter, with your resume, and with choosing a career path. It's so amazing what we've developed. I spent 2 months programming this AI to understand pharmacy, to understand our job market, and to understand how pharmacists make career transitions. And I just spoke with one of our clients today. She said, "Oh, once you start using it, you're going to love it." Oh, it's so stinking cool. But I'm going to show you how you can use this AI program. And it's as here's a snapshot of it. I'm skipping ahead. I'm sorry, but it's too cool to pass up. This AI you can access in our community, and it will help you not just with those things, but we've programmed it to help you just get unstuck. If you feel like you don't know what the answer is, if you feel like you don't know what you're doing wrong, this AI is programmed to help you. It's not as good as me or one of our coaches, but holy cow, is it awesome. So if you would like to come, here are the details. This workshop next week, November 8th, 8:30 p.m. is hosted by me and Garrett Kavanaugh. Garrett is a retail pharmacist that transitioned into a pharma role, specifically market access. Correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett. I think you're still here. Sorry about that if I'm totally wrong. We're going to be working with you for about an hour and a half, but I think it's going to go over because it's not just us talking. It's going to be everyone talking, and we're going to be broken up into groups, and we're going to be asking questions, and we're going to be helping you crafting things like your past experience into pharma desired experience. And there's going to be a workbook provided that'll be sent to you next week when that is all finished and ready to go. There's a little bit of design work that's needed on it still. And in the workshop, you'll have that workbook, and that will help you with your resume and your cover letter. And after the workshop as well, you'll get the community support where you'll have access to me and our coaches at the Happy Farm D. And we'll be doing things like weekly workshops for a while, talking specifically about pharma careers. And of course, the amazing AI program that we've built. Now, this workshop, I think I need to put a banner on my screen. If you'd like to join, you can click here in this link. I'll put a link in the comments. I don't know if it's going to be everywhere, but if you click that link or you go to this link, you can sign up there. It is for $95 investment. And I want to be super clear about this workshop. This is meant for only the serious people that are ready to get going. If you've just been thinking about it and you think, well, maybe this probably isn't for you. This is meant for the people who are serious and who are ready to take some action to build up their career. Now, we are going to give a special bonus for those of you that were showing up live. If you use the coupon code PHARMA50, a little bit on the nose, it's 50% off for the next 2 hours. I think it expires 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. I hate time zones. But anyways, it expires in 2 hours, and 50% off, I think, makes it $247.50. Math is not my strong suit. And most importantly for me, this is a money back guarantee. If you hate the workshop, if you go through it and you're like, this stinks, I don't want this didn't help me at all, I didn't get any joy out of it, I don't think that's going to be anyone. But if it is, just let me know. Send me an email saying, hey, don't want to be a part about this. Then no problem. We'll give you your money back. For us, it's about integrity and it's about taking action. It's about making progress. The pharmacists that I shared in the beginning, many of them had retail backgrounds. And I almost said the word just retail because that's what I hear so often. I'm just a retail pharmacist. That makes me so frustrated. We're valuable. Even the retail pharmacist can transition into pharma. It is not impossible. We've seen it happen. It takes strategy. It takes intentionality with knowing what you have that pharma companies want. And it takes knowing what that is. Thank you for showing up tonight, for being a part of this. I had a ton of fun speaking. I know I went over actually much longer than I thought I would. I apologize for that. But I'd love to take some Q&A, and I want to address some specific questions that I know some people had in the chat. Kendra, if you're out there, I'm calling you out. This is directly for you. If you're a student right now and you want to join this, send me a message and I'll work out a better deal than what I've got here. We'll make it stupid simple. I don't know what. Secondly, if it really depends your career trajectory. Her question was something like, what do I do? Residency, fellowship? Do I just get experience? What do I do? Super depends upon the sector that you want to get in. If you want to go the fellowship route, great. There's a lot of things that can help you transition to, but that may not be your cup of tea. Most pharmacists join the profession because we're relationally based. We enjoy interacting with people. The fellowship route, although not 100%, is often more data driven. It's research driven. It is often interacting with a lot of different team members, but not necessarily the public or patients. So it's a hesitancy that I would have, just blanket statements saying, yeah, go do it. It's not my recommendation to say residency or fellowships are great for everyone, because I know people that go down that path, burn out, quit, stop altogether, or it just doesn't get them a job that they want. I think the myth is over now that if you just get a residency, you're in the clear, you're fine. I don't believe that's the case anymore. I've talked to plenty of unemployed residency trained pharmacists. So whatever it is, be super intentional about it. I can't believe I didn't talk about this in the beginning. Are there remote jobs? Absolutely. Check out my newsletter that I just published today. I talk a little bit about remote jobs. The pendulum is swinging back, though. I know one pharmacist was kind of shooting herself in the foot when applying to different jobs, because when she was being interviewed for the first round, she was saying that she wanted a higher salary and she wanted only a remote position. Well, that's not something that you should do at that point, because that just rules you out as a candidate. But yes, there are totally jobs. Sarah says, can you give me an example of a message we can send to a hiring agent on LinkedIn? Hiring agent, I'm assuming meaning recruiter, Sarah. And if that's the case, I would say your energy is better suited to be networking with pharmacists or anyone working within a pharma field. Recruiter, you have to remember something. If you don't know how to sell yourself, talking with a recruiter may not necessarily go the way you want, because recruiters, great people, they're fine people, but they work for the company and they get paid based upon placing the best person for a job, and they get commission for that. If you talk to a recruiter and you don't know exactly what makes you amazing and why they need to hire you, it's probably not worth your time. But if you'd like a blanket statement, I would say to start a conversation, not about the job that you want to apply to. That's what so many people do. It often is ignored, or you get put in the bucket of, yeah, we'll think about you the next time we've got an entry level opening or something like that. The best advice I would say is start a conversation, be a normal human being, and just ask them a question about what they like about recruiting. Maybe later, maybe now. Asks, where do you go for networking opportunities? There's lots of virtual opportunities that you can do. In our community, we do a monthly networking event in the evening on Thursday. Actually, we have one tomorrow. It's about branding, I think. But if you're on the East or West Coast, that's the best place for this. If you're in the Midwest like me, or you're in some other location that doesn't have a whole lot of pharma companies or startups, like outside of major cities, your best bet is to go to your local major city and find out what startups in the area, what kind of companies are in the area. Take any of the job sectors that we've talked about today and type it in Google and look at where's the closest company. They are probably involved in the area. Going to medical rounds, presentations at your local hospital is a great way to meet people. Drug reps go there. Some MSLs sometimes go. Shawnee asks, do you recommend changing a CV for each role being applied to? CVs, not so much. But resumes, absolutely. The only thing I would recommend with changing a CV is that it's totally up to date for a job that you're applying to, and that all of the hot stuff that they need to know, the great stuff about you, is on the first page. I disagree with common CV guidance that says that it needs to be a proper CV and it's your whole life. I think that's garbage because a hiring manager has limited amount of time. And the first thing that often they look at is your name. Do they recognize you? And if they don't recognize you, then they're going to go to the next person. They look to see who they know, and then they look to see what's their experience. Not every manager does this. Some have integrity. Some go through and give everyone the attention. But yeah. Pauline asks, I'd love to learn about the pathway on learning a job without being licensed. This is a new trend for us, and I'm seeing it happen more and more. More and more pharmacists are saying like they don't want to get licensed, or they take the exam and it's really hard and they're not getting through. So the answer to this is every company is different typically. If it's a high-end level position, something like an MSL role, I have found that license is important to have. But if it's something like a lower level, for example, I'm a paid medical writer. I've been paid to write things. I've been paid to present things, information, CE information in particular. And they've never once asked me, what's my license number? I still have my license, but it's not important to them. So I'm seeing that more and more about this. Natasha asks, what's your opinion about using cover letters for applications if it's not asked during the process? If you're not doing a cover letter, you're shooting yourself in the foot. That's what I believe. Your resume is typically very boring. The cover letter needs to be pizzazz. It needs to be snappy. It needs to get their attention as to why you're a great candidate. And you can't give that narrative, that story in a resume. Resumes stink for that stuff. So absolutely. Okay, I think that is it for tonight. I'm already at the top of the hour. Thank you so much for everyone that was here live. I'm sorry for the delay that occurred while I was doing this. You live and you learn, right? Like nothing is perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for learning with me tonight. Let me know in an email what maybe I didn't cover. I saw a lot of really specific questions in your guys' emails to me, which I really appreciate. But I would encourage you to come to our workshop next week. We're going to get into some nitty gritty stuff. We're going to be helping you identify career paths. We're going to be helping you showcasing your expertise and how that matches the path that you're choosing, as well as some really cool stuff in AI. I'm telling you guys, it makes job applications much easier and it helps you be way more confident in when you apply. But I would love for you to be with me and Garrett. Garrett's one of our newest coaches at the Happy Farm D, and he's super excited to share his experience, his journey getting into pharma. And it's even interesting to note, he actually, I almost said that he was Dr. Garrett Kavanaugh, and he corrected me when we were practicing and getting ready for the workshop next week. He said, "Oh no, I only have a bachelor's," and I thought, hot diggity flippin' dog, how cool is that? You don't need a PharmD to get in. You need to know where is the opportunity and how do I position myself for that opportunity. So I would love for you to be there next week, November 8th, 8:30 Eastern PM. We'll be hanging out together and helping you make progress towards your pharma career. Again, if you want in the coupon code Pharma50, 50% off for the next 2 hours. There'll be an email, I think, sent out here shortly, maybe with a link. Let me know if you can't access anything. I'll be on in my email for a little bit longer, but I need to go to bed. I need to hang out with my kids before I do that, though. And I hope you as well get to enjoy the rest of your night. Take care and take hope. This transformation, this job transition is not impossible. It is doable. We've seen it happen over and over again. And I'd love to help you with your next step. So until I see you then, take care.